Today on r/AskReddit, what do Americans think is normal for everyone, but actually it's not normal for anyone but Americans? Prescription drug ads encouraging people to ask their doctor about the drug being advertised. Edit. A lot of people have mentioned this is also common in several other countries like New Zealand. I thought it was exclusively the US. Also, some interesting points are that it has helped raise awareness to some issues people might otherwise not take seriously or be ashamed to bring up to their doctor. Thank you for the awards. I appreciate it. Toilet cubicles, where people not only can peek, but an adult person could crawl into your cubicle. There is so much space under the door. Forget under the door. There are like centimeters of space all around the door. When I was there during the last election, I was shocked at how phrases like "well, they have the black vote" or "the Latino vote" came up all the time on the radio. Obviously it's not racist, but it's just something that would never come up in my country. Like, why would Latino people all vote for the same person? I've heard someone say that we are the only ones who drink out of solo cups. Canadians do too. And in Europe, when some younger people play beer pong, they get them for authenticity. Other than that, yes, North Americans are the only ones as far as I know. I don't even know what a solo cup is. Aren't most cups intended for one person? Edit. It's the brand name of disposable cups with measuring lines that have a song dedicated to them. Gotcha. Portion sizes. The first meal for any foreigner should be the Cheesecake Factory because their portions are huge and because it's all uphill from there. It's fantastic. I go out to eat once and have leftovers for days. Not putting the final price on the tag. I'm not sure whether it's still like this, but a few years ago one never knew whether the $1 item in McDonald's or Burger King is actually $1 or maybe $1.08. Putting a ton of sugar in products like bread. Being legally allowed to drink only when you reach 21. This one is more on the positive side, because I think we could learn some from it. Talking and sharing your life with complete strangers. I have met quite a few Americans, so it seems the norm that you share and engage with strangers in public. The bus, train, parks, etc. And then you go on your way. In Denmark, yeah, I'd be a freak if you did that. Yeah, for sure. We become very talkative when we are standing in long lines or on airplanes where the flight is going to last more than an hour because it gives us something to do to pass the time, and you can also learn a lot from others' life experiences. I lived in Ireland for a while, and when I was first there I was always looking around. So it was obvious I wasn't from there. During this time old people would sit next to me on the bus and tell me their life story rather frequently. As soon as I started looking like every other office drone, it stopped. I think there's some regionality to this as well. I grew up in the Northeast, and generally people are not going to share that much with a stranger. More likely to hear unsolicited stories in the South. Absolutely going to happen in the West. Not so much in the Midwest. I've never had so many unsolicited comments about the product I'm about to put in my cart at a grocery store as I get in Colorado. Back home in New York you do not talk to people unless you bump into someone, and that's just to say sorry. Ambulance rides costing money seems pretty absurd to people from other countries. Cash bail. With the discussions going on about changes to bail, I've seen a few people saying things like, "Oh, so you're just going to drop cash bail? Just gonna decide whether to release people? People are just going to show up to court without the money threat?" Oh yeah, as I understand it that's how it works in places all over the world already. I've been released on cash bail before. I didn't show up to court because of the cash bail. I showed up because warrants are annoying. The whole US prison system is hard to get my head around, tbh. My maternity leave was an unpaid 6 weeks. And I had to fight them on not shorting me because I went past my due date and didn't keep working until the day I went into labor. This comment is very underrated. Maternity leave is a joke in the US. And you can forget about paternity leave. I know someone that went into labor while at work grocery store and she was back in a couple weeks because she used up her 2 weeks vacation. I'm never going to understand how Americans keep having babies when it seems like everything is so difficult concerning pregnancy, labor and children. Having to work up until you give birth. Insane medical bill from giving birth. Barely having recovered from labor until you have to go back to work. Insane childcare costs, etc. I mean, in my country you can't even put a baby that's younger than 9 months old to daycare. The idea of going back to work when your baby is only a few weeks old is crazy to me. Not to mention having no safety nets if you have children and happen to get sick or lose your job. Having only 2 parties, Republicans and Democrats. I know there are some smaller parties, but the system is stacked against them. The bipartisan system is messed up. The idea that Americans have a literal red vs blue mentality with their own country and are willing to pick sides so vehemently and aggressively boggles my mind. Being able to vote before reaching the legal drinking age. In my country legal drinking age is 18 and you can vote when you are 16, but it's optional. Extra large bottomless cups for cola or soft drinks. You could bathe in those. And somehow half a liter of a soft drink is cheaper than a small bottle of water. Asking everyone what do you do when you first meet them. I live outside the US and realize there are some people I've known for years and I still don't know their job. I think in the US jobs are a bigger part of a person's identity than in some other places. Attack ads against political opponents. Ads for law firms or lawyers. These kinds of ads are illegal and considered unethical in our country. Also expecting a teenager to be out of the house by the time they're 18. I live in Southeast Asia. There's no stigma about living with one's parents. Most of the time, there will be 3 generations living in one house. Going along with this is pharmaceutical companies advertising their latest drug on TV, magazines, etc. Bankruptcy because you went to the hospital. American flags everywhere. I traveled throughout Europe and the Caribbean, and I usually only saw their flag on government buildings and here and there. Whereas here in the USA the flag is like Frank's Red Hot. We put that shite on everything. Magnets. Churches. Cars. Condoms. Every front porch. Damn. I throw out a random comment and get 9k likes. Also, I feel like this thread became a subreddit for Canada. Some other countries do this too. In Canada for example they strategically put the Canadian flag and maple leaf everywhere. Even in logos for example. Canadian McDonald's has a maple leaf in its logo and most of my Canadian friends had never even noticed when I mentioned it. Actively avoiding healthcare visits / checkups because if there's something wrong and you don't have the money to pay for treatment, then yeah, I'd rather just not know. Or because we get gaslighted into believing that it's no big deal or that we're even a burden for showing up to the doctor's office in the first place. Having police patrol the school. My school has a security guard whose job is to make sure kids don't walk out the front door before the last bell has. Very nice. Bringing in the dogs for random drug searches was a little over the top. Started this topic thinking of reality TV about paternity court cases with the little children present as a trophy for winning. But I remember the other day a redditor saying they thought all schools had cops at school and it was a regular thing. I thought this could be an eye-opening topic then. Campus police is what got me. I imagine the protest students in Germany would put on if any kind of police would have a permanent residency at the campus. Wait, schools and other places don't have cops at school? Just dealing with preventable and curable diseases instead of seeking medical attention out of fear of crippling debt. One of the biggest things I feel those against access to healthcare being a right miss is that there are so many little things that happen to people that if they just got them checked out early it would be a cheap fix. If they could take a little time off to rest after an injury or illness. Instead we just have people ignore small treatable issues until they become big chronic issues that require some form of regular maintenance or care. When I went to New York, I was flabbergasted by the amount of people just loitering on the streets or having phone conversations that everyone can hear on the train like NPCs from GTA. People outside of the USA don't hang out in public or let other people into their business on public transport. I managed to hear a woman talk about how her baby daddy wasn't going to her daughter's birthday party, and I started to pick sides in her personal life. While walking through Central Park, I heard two friends with a substantial age gap talk about everyone in their friend group having mistresses, and they were trading information on the mistress facts each of them knew for their respective friends. I got invested in that one, so I followed them for a while pretending I wasn't, because I wanted the tea. While this isn't exclusive to New York City, as a New Yorker I can tell you that it is much more common in the city than in most places in the USA. Frankly, it comes down to a space issue. Most people don't have big apartments. Many people have roommates. Our offices are small. So if we have to have a rough conversation, the choice is sometimes between let everyone in my living situation know about something personal I don't want them to, or let some people that will never see me again know. A flag in every corner of a classroom. And Americans being very patriotic to the stars and stripes. Other countries barely give a poop about their flags. Pledge of Allegiance in schools. That's weird AF. I will say I think this is a North American thing, because Canadians and Mexicans also love their flags. In Mexico, every Monday we have this flag ceremony and everyone has to go dressed up to school for it. Edit. Grammar. American accents. I mean, everyone thinks their own accent is normal. But I've met Americans who think that they have no accent. Like this is the baseline somehow. As an American, I was shocked to learn that not every school internationally has a building cop. That's the only cops I've ever seen at school. Building cops? As an unofficial police officer with a badge. Canadian here, and I never heard of such a thing. Willingly putting yourself massively in debt for a college degree. I come from a place with free university education, which has its own drawbacks of course. And the fact that you can make such a huge, life-altering decision at 17 is considered normal over there. That seems downright bizarre to me. Circumcision and medical debt. I mean, religious or health-related circumcision is a thing. But circumcision in the United States usually is done for no deeper reason other than it being normal. Pledge to the flag in class. When I first saw footage of Pledge of Allegiance, I thought I was watching some dystopia fiction. Like 1984. Calling a main course an entree. Date order mm/dd/yiii. Non-necessary. Non-religious circumcision. Say I'll just have water at a restaurant and not be charged for it or be asked what kind. Putting your country's flag everywhere and on everything. A flagpole on your porch or car bumper sticker may be somewhat understandable. But it gets really weird when it starts popping up on baseball caps, swimsuits or underwear. In Australia, and Americans are the only ones do this, yes. With the American flag. Even all the way out here. That the entire traffic has to stop when a school bus stops. I've seen this a few times on r/idiotsincas, and there is always a debate about how it's not normal outside of the US. Well, there's a lot of idiots in cars in America, and there have been many deaths due to drivers ignoring when school buses stop to let kids on. Lady killed about 3 kids last year due to that. Being concerned when anyone speaks a language you can't understand. I live in India and we have 28 languages here, with multiple dialects of the each language. The enabling customer service culture. It's created excessive portions in restaurants. Created Karen. Gives way to a disposable attitude towards products. And generally gives a sense of entitlement, where most people start adding it to their list of rights. Also gives a disposable attitude towards customer service workers. Unfortunately. As if these workers should do everything humanly possible to make the patron happy, and if they don't, get rid of them. Suing for any possible reason. It's so common that there are commercials on TV and radio telling you to sue X company for reason. Lawyer ads are also very common because of this. We don't actually do this all that often. The general notion of a frivolous lawsuit was propaganda by corporate America to discredit those who had been seriously wronged by corporate policy. Such as a woman who suffered serious third-degree burns from McDonald's coffee. In truth, those small-town law firms survive because often enough people are the legitimate victims of things such as negligence or wage theft and need these suits to, in some case, pay for medical bills such as in an accident. Not owning kettles and microwaving their water for coffee/tea. My wife gets frustrated with hotels in the US for not having a kettle in the room. Mobility scooters. There's a giant woman with pink hair driving around my neighborhood on one of these in Berlin, Germany. I call her the American, though. The idea that giving birth to a child is prohibitively expensive to a lot of people, one way or another. Most of the world does not have that problem. My son cost $8k after insurance paid their piece. $35k before they did. That's using insurance that costs $6k per year. Driving everywhere. Visit the US and you'll understand why. The US is huge. I forget who it was, a British comedian I want to say, who said that Americans think nothing of driving an hour to go to dinner. But in the UK, if you're a 20-minute drive from your parents, you might see them at Christmas. Side effects on medication adverts. With James. Hey for the meds. And F. I saw one the other day where one of the side effects was bone loss. The loss of your ducking bones. Just a few things I've noticed since moving here. There are actually 4 states with paid maternity leave. California, Georgia, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. But overall, we really need this to be national. As for people being armed with a weapon and having it visible, that isn't everywhere. Paying people less than minimum wage. How is it a minimum if it's legal to pay less than that? Casually driving a couple hours. Cars are so ubiquitous and stuff is so spread out a lot of the time we don't even think about travel and distance, but instead in driving time. Driving 2 hours on a weekend for a random day trip doesn't seem like anything of note. Driving 8 hours is a long trip, but not really a huge deal. Having to pay outrageous amounts out of pocket for higher education, or get a student loan with a high interest rate. Going bankrupt because you got sick. Writing dates as MM/DD/YII. Free or affordable healthcare is for communists. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more dank curated content from AskReddit.